Welcome to the Same Day Podcast, where we discuss driving incremental business growth and other topics related to real estate, property management, and entrepreneurship. Now to the show at hand.
Matt Zalk here. I'm the host of the Same Day Podcast, where I connect with top business experts and real estate leaders. Past guests include Will Carstetter, discussing multiple years of buying 100 plus doors per year. Very impressive. Adam Rosenberg, discussing redeveloping attainable apartments for all walks of life. Today's episode is brought to you by Chris Lyle State Farm. Chris Lyle State Farm helps you protect your most precious assets and investments, whether it's your home and auto, investment rental properties, or other valuables. Call Chris Lyle's State Farm for a quick and painless phone call to potentially save you double digits on all of your insurance needs. Visit diallyle.com. That's DIALLILE, or call his office at 918-878-7771. Today's episode is also brought to you by Keyrenter Property Management. At Keyrenter Property Management, we are a full-service property management company helping our clients buy, renovate, and operate real estate assets. We help our clients build wealth while taking the headache out of property management. So no matter what rental you have, a single-family home, condo, townhome, we have the management solutions you need. Go to keyrenterpmc.com or email us at info@keyrenterpmc.com. Today's guest is Kathy Portley. Kathy Portley is the president of the Tulsa Real Estate Investors Association. That's the REIA, Tulsa REIA. And she is a licensed real estate agent for EXP right here in Tulsa. She's been in real estate for nearly 2 decades and has a passion for educating and empowering young adults in the Tulsa community. And she is a masterful connector of people. Kathy Portley, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to have you on. I wanted to start with kind of your journey into the real estate industry, and then how you became president of the Tulsa REIA, and also maybe, and this is a long question, but how the Tulsa REIA kind of got its original foundings and how it's progressed to where it is today.
Yeah, thanks. So how I came along, I was in the manufactured home industry. I didn't think that I knew anything about real estate. The company that I worked for said that I was a manufactured home salesperson. Okay. But turns out I did project management and planning and land use. Wow. I did everything. Also, I showed the house, so there was just a lot of education that came along with that. I was in that for altogether almost 18 years of my life. Fast forward, the pandemic had happened. I had 2 young guys living with my sons here in our house, and I helped get them stabilized, birth certificates, driver's license, and all that. They kept asking other friends to come to my house and, hey, Miss Kathy can help you. My mom can help you. So for 2 years, I had 15 young men ages 17 to 24 in my house every Sunday. And I'd teach them life skills and Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Somebody wanted to learn stocks. Somebody wanted to learn real estate. Somebody wanted to learn, various different things. So I got mentors in each of those areas. I reached out to someone that I knew that was in real estate. It was a different animal than what I knew it to be. Again, I just didn't realize I was in real estate, but they pointed me in the Tulsa REIA, and the exchange was, hey, you teach me about real estate. I'll do some admin tasks.
Wow.
And over time it was, hey, I know that. I know that. Yeah, I've had a railroad, abandoned and an alley reinstated. And, gosh, I was way more into real estate than I knew. So now I have my real estate license. I sell real estate, buy real estate. I've helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people buy and sell over time, over the last 24 years or almost that. That's how I came along to it.
And then how did you, so you progressed through this kind of bartering program with the Tulsa REIA, and then decided, you know what, I should take this thing on and really run with it.
Absolutely. So had a little meeting with the persons who were running it at the time, and like, you know what, there's no reason why this shouldn't be more formal. There's a whole lot more need than what they were serving. So I just kind of took it on, and there we go.
Who was running it at the time?
That was, there were 3 people that, Mark Ruiz, Josh Clock, and Anthony Agostino were in place whenever I came along. Just over time, we each grew in different ways, and this was an area that I grew with, and just when I first came along, there were about 20, or well, right at 2,000 people, just under 2,000 people. And over the 2.5 years that I've been working on this, then we're over 10,000 now.
Wow. Holy moly.
Yeah.
So what has caused that? Just more frequent events and more value to the events that are taking place, and what else is going on that allows you to quintuple the size of the membership?
Yeah, it was quite a surprise, but really it was just listening to people. I'm very, very I'm a big proponent for networking and building relationships.
Mhm.
So I would reach out to somebody that I knew did wholesaling or fix and flips or whatever it was area that they were in, and ask, what is it that you're working on? What are you needing? What are you missing in community? And so really just tried to pull in some resources for each of those different people on their journey.
Wow.
What I've learned over the past 2.5 years is that there are, I can't think of two people that have had the same entry point, performance, and strategy, exit strategy. Mm-hmm. They are all different. There are so many different ways to be involved in real estate and to make a model that works for one's own self, resources, family, whatever the needs are.
Yeah.
So just as the leader of the organization, I try to provide those resources to help anyone along their journey, whether they're brand new or haven't gotten started yet, all the way up to accredited.
I have two questions. One, is there anybody in the group right now that does private money, that focuses
Mm-hmm.
on private money?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's something I definitely would love to learn more about and how to actually set that whole thing up. So I'm going to come back to you on that too. For people that are just getting started on their real estate journey, what are the resources, the community events, the education events, et cetera, that are helpful to them or that the Tulsa REIA provides for those folks?
Yeah, so we have several different things. One, their Facebook page is, just has a lot of resources in it, just
oh my God,
I
just watched the one on this old house or whatever and how to nail down your squeaky floorboards. That thing is awesome. It was,
yeah.
I was like, that is a brilliant video, and I need to do that in some of the rooms in my house.
Exactly. Yeah. So, just a ton of resources, just little things. I mean, whatever you're looking for, whether it's, you're servicing notes or you're into commercial, or you're growing into the next phase of whatever your journey is, or even learning what other people are doing during trying times, how are they pivoting? How should, maybe, come up with some ideas. So just even being in the organization on the Facebook page is a tremendous amount of education. Mm-hmm. We hold a second Tuesday meeting every second Tuesday of the month. I bring in a speaker over a topic that's relevant to investors. Sometimes it's over wholesaling and sometimes it's over, commercial or whatever. So those are some ways. Definitely the networking events. Recently, I brought on a lunch and learn event. Mm-hmm. So every third Wednesday of the month, which is coming up this week, we actually have a lunch and learn that's coming up. And those are more of our local topics. Last month, we had firehouse dryer vent cleaning service come in, and they were talking about some of the protocols the city has.
We use them a lot.
What's that?
We use Firehouse a lot in the business.
Yeah,
I like those guys. What's the topic of tomorrow's conversation for Wednesday lunch and learn?
Yeah, so we have Braden Anderson is an investor and he's a home inspector. So he's going to be talking about what home inspectors are looking for traditional housing and for investing. I know a lot of people think that, you shouldn't skip that. And maybe if you got the experience and that can make some sense, but a lot of investors are brand new. They don't know what they're looking for, and it can be very, very costly to not have that service. So, we're just having somebody that can show what that
can provide.
Yeah. That can provide. There you go.
What sort of attendance with 10,000 members? What sort of attendance are you having at the weekly lunch and learn, or at the you said third Wednesday? Tomorrow's the whatever Wednesday.
On the lunch and learn, about 20 people, 20, 30 people over a lunch period. Cool. we have a networking event, toward the end of the month, and it's been on hiatus for a little bit. We've got that, back, and we visited with you guys it was in September.
Yeah.
So between 40 and 100 people that on any one of our given events, middle of the
Great.
week.
I was super impressed with the number of people that came and attended the networking event that we did, which was venture and real estate investing, kind of two spheres of asset classes. In terms of your vision for the growth and development of the Tulsa REIA over the next couple of years, where do you see the organization going?
I've partnered with quite a few brands that investors use: Deal Machine, Bigger Pockets, Rent Prep. There's some larger resources that are coming online. Some of that is going to be membership based. So if somebody buys a membership to the Tulsa REIA, then they get some of these deals and services that we've negotiated in. And others of it, we'll put out front for people to go ahead and select. We probably have, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 options right now that investors can really use in their business. Besides that, that's a great question. I'm just kind of listening to the feedback, really. Real estate, what's happening right now in 6 months, that may not be the trajectory that we take. So just really kind of listen to what each person in that sector, a representation of each of those sectors, what are they needing? What wholesaling is needing is different than what the industrial investor is needing right now.
Sure. Love that. Let's talk for a second about the membership, the 10,000. What portion of those people do you think are local, that are investing locally, and what portion of those are outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, investing locally?
Yeah, we probably have about 5,000 active local investors. That is, They live in Tulsa, Wasso, Bartlesville, even, right here in the Green Country area, that actively are investors. There's quite a few of them that are contractors. Maybe they're contractors and investors, or they are service providers to the real estate investors.
Yeah. What's the importance in your mind of local real estate investing?
I'm saddened by some of the situations that I've seen lately. So last year or so, a hedge fund out of Texas had reached out to me and said, "Hey, can you take some photographs?" I said, "Sure." I go in and I'm doing a kind of a inspection overview for them. Taking all the pictures and finding out why there's a leak and all that kind of stuff. Write up the report and whatnot.
A lot of work.
Over some time. What's that?
A lot of work, it sounds like.
Oh, it was, but I learned so much. I tell you, there's nobody has had a better education about real estate investing than me. I've gotten to see so much. I've gotten to talk to so many people that are experts in their field, and just, putting my hands on certain things. And this is one. I wouldn't have known this. And I think a lot of people don't realize this. After working with that hedge fund for about 6 months, I thought, they bought 75 houses out of our market, anything $200,000 less. They're just buying it sight unseen. They, just need this little formality of a report, and then they buy it, scoop it up. And so what we're seeing is, those hedge funds that are, Oklahoma, Tulsa, it's a low cost of living state. So everybody who is in investing has their eye on areas just like ours. It's rising in in terms of growth for retail and population and whatnot. It's a fantastic place to invest. It's exactly the gem that you're looking for. Unfortunately, those of us who live here are seeing that being eroded away by some of those people that have starry eyes, whether it's, out-of-state investors singly or in corporation. We are seeing a lot of our low-cost housing is flying right off the shelf. And here's the thing about hedge funds is that once they're in the hedge fund model, they do not come back to the traditional market. The only model that can make sense for a hedge fund is for them to sell it to another hedge fund who needs to park money. Those houses never come back. And so what we're doing is, as we, I get it, as sellers and as investors, we want to get the highest possible cost, your highest possible price when selling a property. When we're selling them off to hedge funds and they never come back, and we're doing it in droves. Right now the floor is 200,000. What happens when it's 300,000 and 400,000? Now we start looking like Washington State or California or Colorado or some of these other places that were in that same position and did that same thing. And we will have the same results if we're not careful.
And what can we do to prevent massive, very capitalized institutional buyers from coming in and buying all of our real estate?
That's a great question. Right now the city has some practices that they put in place. I think that what they think is happening is that that there are slumlords, right? And sure enough, there's probably some investors that don't take care of their properties and don't take care of the tenants the way that one would expect.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the investors that I know don't practice like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, there are some high profile cases, Shadow Mountain, of course, being one of those high profile opportunities for improvement. And so the city, I think, is taking some what they think is proactive action and putting into some place. They're just, they think that they're just enforcing the ISO 9000 building code.
Yeah.
I think they're overcorrecting on that because what's happening is that when those inspections turn up that that there's a correction that has to be made, instead of asking an inspector to come take a look at the property, they'll overcorrect and ask a structural engineer to come take a look at the property. So the costs are beginning to climb on some of the local investors who otherwise do take care of their properties. It's just maybe there's a crack in the sidewalk, or maybe there's a small patch of rust on the stairs. It doesn't require a structural engineer to ensure the safety of that. But those are a couple of examples that we've got. We've had quite.
Is that the new legislation that the city is enforcing through working in neighborhoods? Code enforcement is saying now that any unit over any complex over 4 units has to be inspected annually or semi-annually or something like that for health and safety.
Yeah, that's correct. And the city's actually told me it's 2 units, like duplexes and higher. And so what they intend is that they're going to inspect those once a year, every year. They've got some federal funds and whatnot, and they are they're headlong on some of that. I don't know what the qualification of the inspectors is. Are they inspectors? Are they, what is their qualification for deeming these things? I don't know that. I do understand that there are investors, like I said, that have been underperforming as far as taking care of their properties or their tenants. And so I get that. Your question was, what do we do about some of these hedge funds and whatnot? I'm not sure that that's the right direction, but here's something that I'm not sure is the right direction either. If we ask the city to commandeer property that belongs to some of these out-of-state hedge funds that are, causing our properties on a large scale to be dilapidated, whether it's Shadow Mountain or it's Promenade Mall or it's 52 houses along one block, whatever it is, then what we are asking for the city to do is have the ability to come in and take property from anyone.
Yeah.
So do we want to do that either? So what is the right thing to do? I think is really to educate the local investor, even the local traditional market homeowner, and just really make that plea that if we give away our community to the highest bidder, we will get what that those prizes get.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when a homeowner is selling something that's 200,000 or less and somebody comes in with an all cash offer with no inspection contingency, that looks very attractive. And I don't know how
at sight unseen at 150 times the price. Yeah.
I mean, that
happens all day because what's happening, out in some of the Western states with the high cost of living states, besides the hedge fund, that some of these investors, maybe they're pulling equity out of their home, or they've got some money that they need to deploy, and so then they deploy it here in Tulsa or cities like Tulsa, And they are sight unseen, and they are overpriced, and they still think they got a good deal.
Yeah.
Comparatively to what they're paying, sure. But what it's doing to us is taking our knees out from our bottom and then raising the top so high. 2-3 years ago, a house that was, that is currently 500,000-600,000 was maybe 250.
Yeah.
And so we've tripled our prices in not as many years. And
it's impactful on
that's
local
the trajectory we've got.
Yeah. The other thing that you would likely expect to happen if hedge funds are coming in or any of these institutional buyers are coming in and buying property for above what we believe the market to be is that rents would naturally need to come up to support the investment. So let's talk for a second about what workforce housing or affordable housing means to our local consumers, to our investors, to government bodies, and potentially in the investors category, we can discuss what that looks like to the hedge funds or to the institutional buyers, because I guess they're hedge funds or private equity shops. They're just local, not local. They're national, potentially, corporations that are coming in and just buying up real estate. So we call them hedge funds, but they're really all sorts of different institutional level companies that are well capitalized buying stuff. What does it mean? Historically, when we talked about workforce housing, we talked about it in terms of, I think if my memory serves, like $800 to $1,100 kind of workforce housing. What do you think of when you think of affordable housing?
Yeah, so the term affordable housing has 3 definitions to it. So if you're talking to Joe, the regular guy, he thinks affordable housing means cheap rent. It means that, whatever it is that he wants to pay, so he can still go and, have, a boating weekend and,
Sure.
Cubs games or whatever it is, he still wants to be able to have a cheap rent or a cheap mortgage or whatever. So affordable housing is what that means to him. To a government, let's say it's a city, they have affordable housing programs. So some of these programs would look like incentivizing a builder, a developer, maybe it is an out-of-state investor, that as long as they have X number of properties that qualify for HUD rent, or Tulsa Housing Authority or whatever it is, assistance, then, if they meet that criteria, that property is considered an affordable housing complex.
Mm-hmm.
Rents might be $2,200 in that 1-bedroom flat downtown Tulsa, but if they've got 5% of them that are this quote of affordable housing, meaning that they take housing vouchers for 5%, that entire property is an affordable housing community.
Interesting.
Third, you have the government that considers, this would be like your rental assistance programs, or the federal government is 25 to 45% of one's income.
Okay.
So
wow,
whenever 45%
of one's income would be a lot. That's wild. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So, but if you take somebody that owns or that gets paid $1,200 a month, or somebody that gets paid $6,000 a month, that affordable housing is a very different number when you look at that range of what affordable housing means. So whenever I hear the word affordable housing, and I implore other people to consider the same, when you are hearing that, you really need to define, what does affordable housing mean in this situation, and are we all talking about the same animal? Mm-hmm. Very often we're not. And so then we see a lot of cat fighting, between tenants and landlords, or governments and landlords, or so on, because we're not talking about the same thing.
Do we have any idea? I mean, how do you come up with a definition of affordability when you have so many disparate stakeholders that are each coming from it from their own perspective?
Great question. I don't think anybody's found the answer to that yet. And that's why we have a lot of this incongruency in thinking of what does it even mean. We have buzzwords in affordable housing and workforce housing, and a lot of those words are being passed around right now. And I think there are some political opportunities to use words that cause people to maybe feel and act upon or vote in a certain way, and so then they're used in an emotional setting. to somebody who thinks more logically or to letter of law, then those words are very, very defined.
Yeah. What does the Tulsa REIA do in terms of the advocacy work in our communities and locally at a state level, potentially even for helping the understanding of the challenges that we face as local investors or even as tenants potentially?
Yeah. So, what we do behind the scenes, one of the things that the Tulsa REIA does is, we work with the city and, try to convey the position of investors. We don't want to be the bad landlord. We don't want to be the fall guy, the bad guy, or anything else, but we do want to have a seat at the table to say, hey, the way that you're looking at it is not the best informed, or the outcomes that you're asking to happen are going to have some unintended consequences that you're not going to want.
Sure.
They come along with it. And so, we work with the city, we work with other boards, GTAR, the apartment housing community, some other entities that, to kind of try to get on the same page or a near same page. As far as the state goes, there are some of our senators, some of our city council, some of our even county government that are, I'm not sure what the right word is to say, in a nice way anyway, but there are some that are politically motivated to cause certain actions. And so, some of these laws are, there's some tenant retaliation laws. Well, we as an industry, we have some standards, we just some expectations we don't do, and I'm not sure tenant retaliation is really the thing. If you're also punitively harming the landlords and their ability, I mean, you have properties, right? If you can't make your mortgage, what happens to your property? They foreclose. So is punishing a landlord for some bad actor or some political ideology, is that the right thing to harm another citizen?
Yeah. So it seems like historically out-of-state investors and local investors both have liked the market in Tulsa because we've been fairly landlord friendly. That is to say, tenants can't just not pay rent for 6 months and then we owe them money for moving out of the house like there are in some of the Western states. It's easy to do evictions for the most part for non-payment of rent. It's easy to buy property. It's easy to sell property, etc. And yet when there are some bad actors, and you mentioned Shadow Mountain or plenty of other people that don't behave to the standards that you and I would like in dealing with tenants, etc. When there are some bad actors, the city tends to overly correct on being punitive to landlords without understanding fully the consequence as it trickles down. It could be that, now it's harder to evict a tenant that's not paying. So you have to do mediation, and the mediation is good for people when it is a bad actor, I guess. And, somebody's not paying rent because they've got a gaping hole in their ceiling and it's leaking rainwater and the landlord doesn't want to fix it. But realistically, that doesn't happen very often. Now we have to jump through a bunch of hoops and we've got to do all sorts of stuff when the truth is that the tenant's just not paying rent because they don't want to pay rent. They spent their money at the casino or they did something else. So I have also found that, like the working communities initiative to, inspect all houses, we tend to build bureaucracy. We tend to build, more regulation when it probably could be solved in a simpler way and something that's put back in the hands of the individual landlords rather than, or in a community organization like the Tulsa REIA, rather than, forcing all landlords, 99% of whom are acting pretty, in an ideal state, or 95 of them acting in an ideal state, rather than forcing everybody to comply with these new regulations that make it way more cumbersome and burdensome to actually own rental properties. And the result is what? The result is just that the cost gets passed on to the tenant. If it costs me a whole bunch of extra money to, engage in these inspections and jump through hoops, everyone has a price for their time. You can't say that you don't. So if you have to spend a bunch more time doing it, you have to raise the rent to ultimately cover those costs. And it,
Yeah.
they're
No,
then
you're
the
totally
tenants are
right.
complaining about rent.
You're right, but that's not the only cost. So some of the other costs are that whenever investors are spending so much money, and particularly when they can't recoup it, they are forced to sell. And who are they going to sell to? The next highest bidder, because they've got to
Yeah.
recover some of the costs. And those are hedge funds. And then now we've got that problem that's, on that cycle. The other problem is that if when they over penalize and it passes along to the tenants, well, then landlords are looking to, I don't want to say pivot their model, but they certainly are considering what else they could do, and that is that you get a little bit more scrutinizing on who you allow to be your tenant.
Yeah.
So some of these tenants that have needed some second chances for whatever their reason might have been, for eviction history or prison or rehab or whatever it is, they aren't going to get those same opportunities. So now we've got three different ways that that there are unintended consequences. I'm probably not thinking of some other ones that
But
could come up.
then we go back to a city level, and somebody raises the point that we have unhoused people and homelessness is growing, and we've got the shelters that are filling up, and now we have to do something else to deal with those people when we should have just not done the first bit of whatever solution that the city came up with. It's really a challenge.
You're right, and already the state is, they've had some anti-landlord laws or pro-tenant laws, or depending on what side of the fence you're standing on, you might describe it, one way or another. But there are some actions in the state right now. They've had a series of bills that have been passed through and then failed, passed through and failed, and there's some on the floor right now that to cap the late rent or to cap the the ability for a landlord to recover money. So if you've got somebody, like you said, we've had some pretty landlord friendly laws in that you can't just sit in a house that you don't own and not pay the bill. But this does incentivize people to do that, knowing that there's a cap and you can only charge up to $60. Okay, I'll just sit here for 60 extra bucks.
Are they making they're setting a specific dollar threshold for, they're trying in legislation right now?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's scary. Yeah. Because if you have somebody in a $300,000 house and your late payment for not paying the mortgage is, a percentage of the total mortgage the outstanding mortgage value could be well in excess of $60. And if you can't pay it because somebody's not paying you rent, $60 seems like a pretty low cap.
Yeah, and then what are you going to do as that property owner? You're going to have to get yourself out of the situation. You're going to have to sell it. You're going to have to sell it to, guess who comes in? Another hedge fund. And so I really think that, and it seems to me like there are some of the city council that are sensitive to our concerns. There are others who don't have that concern on their agenda at all. Same way with some of the state representatives. There are some that are a little bit more willing to listen, although they don't have a good solution either. What I'm surprised at is that neither the city nor the state have asked the Investor Association to come to the table for some of these things that, we represent landlords directly. So, not even asking the organization to come to the table, we've really had to fight our way to be there.
But thank God you are fighting your way to be there, because there'd be no representation for those of us that should have a seat at the table. Let's shift for a second. Besides the Tulsa real estate, the Tulsa REIA, and besides your role at EXP doing real estate sales and purchases on behalf of your clients, what are some community projects or other initiatives that you're passionate about or actively involved in?
For me, real estate, this kind of goes back to that mentorship of young men specifically, is where my passion is what I want my real estate journey to look like is I want to have some, I'd love to have a youth academy, that, after that 18-year-old and before that 25-year-old period where, young men can go in and get the resources that they need. They can get the mentorship they need. They can get the, start the business or, just hear a different voice than maybe they have had. I'm a midlife woman, and I know lots of young guys that are in the 18 to 25 range that are homeless, and it just breaks my heart. 30, I can call them by name.
Wow.
I'm not going to look for them. I just happen to know that there are a lot of our young population, particular our young male population, that are not stable. And I really feel like that our population, or our longevity of a stable society has to do with, how our young men see their lives and how they, come into their early adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be a part of that solution. And I would love to have that youth academy, kind of what I did here at the house, really just trying to change these young guys' lives.
Yeah.
So that's my
I
passion.
agree. Good mission to have. The education system today doesn't seem to teach financial literacy in any capacity, and that's scary. We get applicants all the time that have no credit at 25 years old. And, whereas my parents, I had a credit card from the age of 12 or 15 or something that was very strictly monitored, but was given to me so that I could build credit, so that when I was 18 or 21 or whenever I wanted to buy my first house, I would have something to fall back on that said you have good credit history, because all we are in the end is credit, right? We're a credit risk, and you have to have something. But I see so many people that have no credit. I talk to them and say, I ran your credit. It shows NA. You don't even have a credit card. No, I have a debit card. You have never had the foresight to take out any sort of debt that you can pay back religiously to just prove that you're a good risk from a credit perspective. No. And that just seems to me to be such a crime. Then all of a sudden they're paying 2 or 3 times security deposit. They could be great people. Their former landlord says, oh, they're great. They always pay on time. But I have no clue. I can't see anything that speaks to that. So really a financial literacy program. And I know Vondell Burns has been involved with financial literacy for some underrepresented classes. I've had her on the show before and she talked about it. But just having a simple book that says, this is financial literacy 101. This is how you build credit. This is how you, spend less than you make. This is, all of the components would be such a beneficial thing to have in our Tulsa public schools.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, maybe it was 5 or 10 years ago. I'm not sure exactly, but my kids have gone to Union. My youngest one is in her junior year there, and all of them have had to go through their financial literacy program. I think they call it foolproof, and maybe it's state required, maybe it's district required. I'm not sure exactly, but it is. It's sad to me. It's sad that these kids think that they've got this financial education. They've got 9th grade is when they are required to start working on it. They've got to finish it before they graduate. So in 4 years, they've got to do like 12 modules or 30 modules. I don't even know how many it is, but I do know that that there are more than one students that I can recall that not only didn't do the program, they paid somebody else to do the program for them. That I'm not sure that's what they expected out of that program, but really there's such little oversight. So some of the young men that I was mentoring here, just they didn't have bank accounts. They were using the cash money on the go, card,
or Cash App or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is that their work employer gave them, they think that that's a debit card, and it's not. They'll take like 4% of their paycheck just to access the money, or take it down to the local liquor store to cash the check or whatever it is. And so really just there's such little education over finances. It's abysmal. I'm really concerned about what that next generation is going to look like.
I mean, it's goes back to the perspective of our tenants, because so many of our tenants are this way. There are very few of our owners that have no credit and buy everything on, buy a house cash or 5 or 10 houses cash and, with zero access to credit. So it means that if you have no access to, if you're not established yourself as a positive credit risk, then you just will never be a homeowner. You'll always be a tenant in a property, which is really, which is a sad way to be. And, certainly if you have the means to get out of that cycle, it's important to do it. Kathy, how do people reach you if they want to become involved, if they want to volunteer their time, if they want to pursue any of the educational community-oriented activities that the Tulsa REIA does, or if they want to buy a house with you or sell a house with you?
Yeah, so I would love that if I would just be honored to be able to represent somebody in buying or selling as a real estate agent, and as just a representative for whatever their journey is. I love connecting with people like that. So they can reach Tulsa REIA on Facebook. We do have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. All of the activity and the magic happens in the group. So make sure you're doing both. You can email me at Kathy@TulsaREIA.org. That's Kathy, spelled with a K, Kathy. And then you can, of course, reach me. If you want to buy or sell a house, you can reach me that way too. My phone number, 918-237-2701.
Awesome. Kathy Portley is the president of the Tulsa Real Estate Investor Association, the REIA, REIA. As a licensed real estate agent for EXP right here in Tulsa. She's been in the real estate industry for nearly 2 decades, has a passion for educating and empowering young adults in the Tulsa community, and she's a masterful connector of people, and I can attest to that directly. Kathy, thank you for being on the show. We really appreciated this conversation with you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Same Day Podcast. Tune in to a new show each week and be sure to subscribe to get future episodes.